Greetings, friends. Welcome to first live broadcast here on the idea of doing a weekly talk show all about Disneyland. Now, I'm going to start off today's broadcast by telling you sort of my pitch, my idea, and then we'll actually get into some Disneyland news because I don't want to just do a whole hour about that. I want to give you a little bit of proof in the pudding. I feel like I'm sitting low in the frame here. Oh, now I'm sitting real low. Now I just rolled over my toe. Putting on a show. All right. I guess that's as high as my seat goes. Regardless, let's just bring this down a little bit. There we go. There we go. So the idea was this. Oh, that hurt. I rolled over my toe. The idea is this. I love talking about Disneyland. I love studying the past of it, which is so incredibly rich. I love living in the present of it and going out to the park, reviewing the park, shooting videos out there, trying to do all the special offerings that I can fit into my schedule. But I also love sort of the promise of the future of Disneyland. As we all know, as super fans, constantly evolving, always making new stuff happen. One of the things that we're going to look at today is the OC Register did an article called 20 Fun Things for Disneyland Fans to Do in 2020. So I thought we would go over that list. But before we do, I just wanted to sort of give you my pitch on doing a weekly show and why me, why you, and why YouTube. First off, why me is I feel like I can offer something to the Disneyland community. I've checked out other live streams. I've watched other things. I don't want to kick dirt on others, but I constantly get frustrated that it just wanders off and it doesn't stay true to an engaging, intellectual conversation about all the things that makes Disneyland so fun. You can see that this is where I get punk and rub my wall all the time. I also would love, as I just interrupted myself, right? Because I'm so pro. But no, I have hosted over about 1,100 episodes of my podcast, Adventures in Design. Talk show is what I do for a living. I'm not a part-timer sort of dipping my toes into content. It's how I pay all of my bills. And Disneyland is just something that I love so much that it would be nice to have a place to create a community where we could talk about it. I do a monthly podcast with my friend Jerrod Maruyama that's all about the design of Disneyland, which is something that I'm absolutely fascinated with. But once a month just isn't quite enough to get it all out. And Jerrod is a busy guy, and I'm gracious just to get him once a month to meet up, go to the park with me, and to do an episode. So I thought that it would be great to have a platform and a place to do it. Now, why you? I love the idea of doing something that's very community based because Disneyland, after all, it's best shared with others. It's an experience that is enriched by being around people that you love, friends from out of town, and just a day at the park is a day that you'll never forget. It's a day spent together. And one of the things that I really enjoy about Disneyland is the lines. I love that when you wait in line for an attraction, it's really good catch-up time. You know, if it's 20, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, if it's something that's really popular. I love that ability to reconnect with those people that I'm obviously close enough to spend a day with you at the park. That's really good time to get to know each other. So I've wanted to create a piece of content for a while where the audience was as big a part of the show as what I was. So doing it on YouTube gives me the ability to do a live stream. Hey, David Gallo, thanks for being there for me. Appreciate it, buddy. It gives me the ability to, in real time, record and interact with an audience. YouTube Live also gives me the availability to do the super chats where, you know, people can contribute to the show, easily drop money in and help sort of reward the show and help it grow. It would be a way to fund it. So with using this platform, there is a way to talk to people, to fund it. And, you know, the more that it brings in, the more that I can commit to it and create graphics or park reports for this. But then eventually, as if we can do this together, you and I, and we can build a community, and I get to know some of you. What's up, John? Good to see you over there at Done by Saturday. The real growth of it could be is to do select recordings over on another platform such as Zoom, where a lot of us are sitting in the round together, ripping through some topics, and then that could be released that week over on YouTube. So really the idea is to create a place where people that love the park can talk about the park and really kind of not necessarily break all the news, because I'm assuming that many of you read the same websites that I do and the same news outlets that I do, but to have a way really to sort of digest that news from a fan perspective. So I appreciate everybody who's over there. And, that's going to be an interesting thing too, is to bring the chat into the conversation without one sort of destroying the other. So I want to say hello to Brooks Engel, who loves the idea of getting all of the magic that he can from Bricky Mouse. And also my friend, I am Redicus, who's calling it Adventures in the Round. And I like that. Mr. Toad Talk. That's a great name from my friend Tony. So anyways, this is the idea. This is the pitch to you. I've spent the first 5 minutes of doing it. Something that could be fun is that these live streams, the audio could be recorded and it could be released as a podcast. So on a week that you can't meet the live, you could still hear the conversation and hopefully get to know some of the characters that are on there. So let's do this. I'm going to jump in right now to our test topic, which is an article from the OC Register. The OC Register has an actual Disneyland section in it, which is fascinating that our local newspaper does that. They put up at least one Disneyland article a day. And a pro tip, if you're looking for the best way to sort of stay in line with what's happening at the park, their website is the way to do it. Now, they do charge a subscription to get all of their digital content because they're content creators and they need to make that money off of it. So it's 99 cents for the first month, and then it ends up being like $10 or so. So it might outprice you. But for me, for somebody who's passionate about all this stuff, it's a tremendous value. Tony Mendez says that he loves the idea of doing the talk show because his coworkers are sick of him talking about the parks. That's what I'm saying. Everyone is sick of me talking about it. I need to create a Disneyland safe space. I mean, I have my Disneyland friends that I go to the park with, but I need a safe space. I need a safe space where I can talk about it with fellow weirdos. Okay. So, and Brooks Engel agrees that the recorded audio is perfect for people that can't make the live stream, or if you just want to go back and listen. And these will also be in a category on my YouTube channel, which I'm relaunching. And last night I premiered a video that hopefully you checked out, where I took it upon myself to be the very last person to leave Disneyland Christmas. It's a fun video, and hopefully you'll enjoy the challenge that I took on. See, that's the thing, Tony. A lot of people say that nobody gets it. Like, you talk about Disneyland and there's people that have been and believe in it, and there's people that haven't been and don't understand it, or they just write it off as this commercial thing. But for those of us that really have sort of taken in the culture of it, it's so much more than what others care to believe or want to believe. So want to create that spot to talk about it. Okay, so let's do this. Let's roll into this article that we're going to look at here, which is 20 things that Disneyland fans should be excited about in 2020, so that it's not a complete mess for anyone who listens back and to sort of try out the idea of doing this community base. Over on our live chat, I will only acknowledge questions or comments on what we are talking about. Therefore, the conversation stays linear and isn't all over the place, which I have criticized others about already on my test recording here with you. So you're my co-host. This is the list. By all means, let me know your ideas. Let me know your thoughts. Are these things you're going to do? Are these things that you have no interest in? Or things that you're kind of meh about? Number one is and these are all in chronological order. So this is basically laying out the upcoming year of Disneyland that we know of so far. Number one is next week, next Friday, January 17th, Rise of the Resistance is scheduled to open at Disneyland. Now, I plan on doing one of these lives next week as another test in the idea of this. And I plan on then to give out my complete strategy on what I will be doing that Friday. And it involves not staying at my house. It involves not driving to Disneyland. I have a very in-depth, aggressive strategy to make sure that I'm one of the first people to ride Rise of the Resistance on opening day. So that is something that's happening here. And Star Wars Land, I cannot wait to see how Rise of the Resistance changes Star Wars Land. Is this the moment where Disney finally really commits to the land and puts live entertainment in it and more special offerings? Because last year kind of felt like a very soft opening. Even when the land was fully operational, it was a pretty laid back opening. And there were many nights, many times when you could go through a very crowded Disneyland and find space to stretch your legs when you got to the Galaxy's Edge. Now, a lot of people say that there's nothing to do over there. Once you build a lightsaber, once you build a droid, there's nothing left to do. I don't know, man. Like, I'm a true Star Wars fan, and just the ambiance of walking through there and sitting on a bench and getting a Ronto wrap or drinking one of those cool like juice cocktails they have. Like, I find it entertaining to just be in there. I don't need everything to be an e-ticket to have a good time. The virtual queue is going to be the way, Aaron, that you're going to get to do Rise of the Resistance. If you don't know what that is basically folks like me will be getting there really, really early to get into the virtual queue. You get I believe they call it a boarding pass on the Disney app. And then it will essentially tell you this is your boarding time. So you don't have to wait in a super long line. It doesn't congest up the park, and one attraction doesn't kind of ruin the fun for everybody else. You can kind of just wander around and then say, oh, okay, our loading time is 2:15. So if you get there at 8 a.m., which I'll be there way before that. If you get there at 8 a.m., then you basically have 6 hours to kill to go have lunch, to go enjoy the rest of the park and not be tied up and waiting for a line. Just to kind of give you an idea, when Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout opened over in DCA, I went to the advance opening that you paid a couple $100 and you got to ride it before everybody else. That was like 2 days or the day before it opened. The next day, the line snaked from Guardians all the way to the entry point of DCA. Now, if you've been to that park and you're a regular there, you know how insane that line must be to go that far. So something that's a brand new ride, the longest ride in Disney's history, the most cutting edge. Imagine what that line would look like opposed to an attraction that's just a layover of an elevator ride that we've all done lots of times and really love. And people love Guardians. Don't get me wrong. That's a fantastic franchise. But I just want to sort of set up the expectations if this were rolled out like that. So the boarding pass is a excellent way, I think, to manage it, Aaron. And I would also say too, Aaron, while we're having this conversation, is that I think Disneyland has been completely gracious and cautious and very cool about how they rolled out Galaxy's Edge. It could have been a cash grab. It could have been so many things other than what it was. And I think they did it in the most fair and polite way possible. And for them to just continuously get ragged on by the YouTube creators and people that have basically figured out, like, I'm going to cover the park to try to make, $30,000, $50,000 a year, and always need something to talk about, and how they really, really went against the brand. I found it to be very, very sad. And that was partially what encouraged me to do the Trampion stunt this summer, was the ability to take the narrative around Disneyland and make it positive and sort of prove to people, even though I've got the smallest channel possible, prove to people that, covering Disney is about covering the magic of Disney and not just being a naysayer and not just being the first to ride everything. There's a lot going on there, and there's always a story to tell. It just depends on, are you creative enough to find that story to tell? Or are you just going to follow the clickbait? I agree with you, John. I'll be interested to hear if Galaxy Edge fully open affects the overall review of the Star Wars property in the parks. Brooks writes in, definitely excited for that. Going back in February and looking forward to that new attraction. Star Wars Land has been a great addition to the park. I agree. Like, for the first time ever, if anything else, for the first time ever, you can fully walk an entire loop of Disneyland, which I think is just so incredibly enjoyable. This was a blessing of the year, David Gallo. You're absolutely right. The park being so empty this year was a shock, was a surprise. And I think it was also a gift. I think it was really a gift that Disney has cautiously built this thing. And, when if it cost them a little bit of money, they didn't have to do it the way they did it. I think it was really, really smart. Tony writes in, if Walt Disney World is any indication, be ready for tons of breakdowns with Rise. Yeah, that's what I hear from folks, is that it's just, I went and saw former Imagineer Bob Gurr speak, and he said he was talking about creating the Omnimovers, and how the idea for, Haunted Mansion, or essentially, a Pirates, is kind of the same system as, like, how can you just get people flowing? How can you just keep guests going and going on a loop? And he was criticizing Rise of the Resistance because it breaks that flow. When you've got 3 or 4 different loading mechanisms, 3 or 4 different pieces that have to line up just properly, or just perfectly, I should say, to get people from A to B, B to C, C to D, and D to E. That's a lot of planning. That's a lot of things that have to land right. And I think that, this attraction is maybe so ambitious that it's a little bit more than what's actually quite possible. So hopefully my first ride is one that doesn't break down. That would be amazing. The virtual queue, as Brooks asked about, is this something that's been done before? Never heard of it, but it's a great idea. This was something that was invented with Star Wars coming to the park. They were really worried about what it would do. When Harry Potter went to Universal in Florida, it really kind of crushed things. And this is arguably, I think, an even bigger franchise, an even bigger park rollout. And Disneyland's a more popular park. So the virtual queue idea was how to digitally get people to wait in line. And, Rise of the Resistance, Galaxy's Edge, it's been a part of a whole larger scheme of growth at Disneyland that might be fun to talk about on future episodes if we all decide to, where the development of the app, the widening of the walkways, the Project Stardust, where they widened the walkways, took out curbs, reduced planters, still keeping that beautiful Disneyland aesthetic, but just working on the park flow. And then also with the app, adding in more information, more ways to manage people, making it all a more seamless experience. This has been sort of, the parks are going through a real renaissance right now. And Galaxy's Edge, I feel like, is just 1 point on a 10-point plan to make the park ready for the future and future customers' expectations. Okay, let's move on here and get into our next list. But before we do, Aaron says he's been watching people in Florida's videos about how to get a spot in the queue. I'm so excited for the rush of getting a spot and finally getting to ride. Dude, I've tried so hard to avoid everything that I could. I want to go in as blind as possible. And let me just say that has been nearly impossible because it just is always leaking. Even in Disney Imagineering Story over on Disney Plus, which I highly recommend, they just threw some of it in there. I'm like, oh, what are you doing? I would like to be surprised about one thing, and I already feel like I know too much. Okay, moving on. January 17th to February over at Disney California Adventure, it's time to celebrate the Lunar New Year, the Year of the Mouse. That's convenient. Commemorates traditions of Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese cultures as well. Special food offerings. I mean, this is really a food event, such as Mulan's Lunar New Year procession. I don't know about you guys, if you do the food and wine events. I always say that I'm going to do it, and then I never really do. I don't like walking and eating. To me, food is a sacred thing. So being able to sit down and enjoy it is one thing. And also, when I go to parties and it's like finger food, it's like just a taste. I like a nice size meal to offer or to get into, sink my teeth into. But I want to look at the Lunar New Year offering. And I want to say too that I think one of the things that Disneyland has really tried to do, which I think is impressive, is they've tried to embrace all different cultures into both of the parks. So the fact that the back corner of DCA is primarily the Christmas celebration, but from the Latino perspective, I find that to be the best part of Christmas. The parade they do back there, and the dancers, and the storytelling, and the music. It's one of the best parts of the holiday celebration. So Lunar New Year is a way for them to add on another event. It's a marketing concept to get more people to come out, and it pays tribute to Asian culture, and I just find that to be so rad. And the Mickey and Minnie that they normally have wearing that garb is very, very cool. Okay, moving on. They're doing, I believe they've announced 4 special ticketed events so far this year. The first one will be January 29th, called Disneyland After Dark. If I'm not mistaken, that's named after a special that aired over on ABC in the 60s that Walt hosted. It's the first of 4 specially themed separate ticketed events. These are normally, I want to say, somewhere in the ballpark of $90 to $110. And there'll be an 80s night. I guess this one is the 80s night. I'm sorry. The first one is 80s night, returns from last year. It will include special photo ops, entertainment, food, and you guessed it, the chance to buy stuff. The ticket is $109 online. I don't know. Did any of you guys do any specialty ticket events last year? I always do the Halloween one, which I'm sure will be on this list, so I'll save my review of that till we get there. It is a little bit crazy to spend as much for an annual pass as some of us do, and then to consider buying tickets for specialty events. But I will say this, you are really paying for the ability to have the park much emptier and to get a more intimate experience. So every time I've bought an after hours ticket, I've really enjoyed it. I just wish sometimes Disneyland would be a little bit more clear on what I'm going to get for that extra money. I'm with you, Brooks. It's hard to make it out to the extra events because it takes a little bit of planning. And one of the great things about being a local and a pass holder is you can kind of go when you want to go. All right, moving up our list, we move up to number 4, which will take place on February 8th. Now, this is something I've never done before. It's called the Annual Gumball Rally, which is done. It's hosted or presented by Mice Chat. Mice Chat, in my opinion, is the best fan blog on the internet. It is something that I read once again every day. My loop every day is Mice Chat and the OC Register. That's where I get a lot of my Disneyland news from. Their annual Gumball Rally, they get contestants together, and the goal is for teams to ride as many rides as possible. I don't quite understand the rules. Maybe this might be something good to do for the YouTube channel. That could be a fun thing to do. I would like to see how they run the Gumball Rally and how aggressive it gets. I would say this, that I'm interested about how they do things in the park, like have a Gumball Rally where people are doing things and not sort of ruin it for the other guests. You're not supposed to run through the park. The competition of trying to ride as many things as possible, I'd really be interested to see how that flows, because there's some people that's maybe the only time they'll ever be there in their life, and they're moving at one speed, and then you have people that go there all the time that are moving at another speed. I'd be interested to see what it's like when those two fan cultures collide. Okay, moving up, we have number 5 would be our second Disneyland After Dark event, Sweethearts Night. This will take place on February 12th and 13th. It's a Valentine's Day themed special ticket event, returns this year. Last year it sold out. It includes entertainment, food, merch designed to inspire romance, and it's $109 as well. So actually have somebody on here who says that when they do the Gumball, that they all use the Max Pass, all the Max Pass use. So I guess that probably takes up a lot of things. Sorry, not certainly understand what you're saying there, Oswaldo. Throwing me off my game. I understand though. Then February 28th, 21, when the Lunar New Year event is over, Disney California reconfigures the marketplace booths with the Food and Wine Festival, which is a big thing they do, where when they design DCA, one of the things that makes it way different than Disneyland is it has the widened walkways, extra wide walkways, so they can pop up these kiosks. And so sort of the main artery that starts right after, like, where like their version of the hub, it starts there and it goes through the Pacific Wharf area and ends over right where Pixar Pier begins, and even bends back a little bit into the Grizzly Run area. So they put up these kiosks all along the way, and they make it look like a food fair, and they're just these big booths, and you can buy tickets or passes, and you can just basically, drink and sample whatever you want to. I know with food and wine, I think they even do something extra back in one of the buildings over there, the stage buildings over in Hollywood Land, the saddest of all lands in DCA. So the Food and Wine Festival, once again, if you look at Disneyland and DCA, they try to always have a major beat going on, a major focus. So when a lot of people were wondering why they pushed back Rise of the Resistance, if we can rewind for a little bit, is opening Rise of the Resistance any other time would have been insane. Halloween goes from, well, you have summer season when it was already busy and it wasn't quite ready. So then Halloween goes all through September and October. No need to add more to that. Then you have the holidays, November into the beginning of January. No need to add more into that. Many days we saw the park reach capacity. So now is the time to put Rise in there, and then Lunar into the food festival. It's really one of the things I love to do is look at how Disney runs this billion-dollar business and think about how you and I can run our $1,000 businesses. And it's a good goal to always have a major talking point, always have a major marketing event that you and your career, or just your talking points, like just something that you're gearing towards. It's a good idea. Tony Mendez, super fan and super friend, writes in and says he used to use Mice Chat a lot, but he finds that Walt Disney World News Today, WDWNT, got it, posts way more frequently and has news for all the parks, which is cool. Tony's absolutely right. The dude over at Walt Disney World News Today got aggressive and built a big team, and they put up, articles all day long. My fetish is Disneyland. I'm a Disneyland guy, and I found it hard to weave through it all to find what pertained to me. I've also had the privilege of talking to the guy that runs Mice Chat, Dusty, and I like that he's a fellow Southerner from out of town that made Disneyland this thing that he fell in love with when he moved out here. So a little bit of hometown loyalty there. Brooke says, other than Halloween, none of the special ticket events seem too exciting. The extra price, but to each their own. I understand what you're saying, Brooks. I feel like it would be good on Disney to really explain what we're getting for our money. And like you said, the Halloween one, there's an extreme value in there. You understand what you're getting. And that Villains Grove, don't get me started. Or do get me started, because this is the place in my life where I can do this. John, done by Saturday, says, is all the food and tasting extra on top of ticket price? Is there opportunity for two hungry people to go home hungry on top of the ticket price? Oh, 200 go home hungry. Sorry, I read that wrong. So the way that it works is this. You buy your regular ticket into the park, and then all of your dining is extra. They have this like VIP pass that you buy, and it has like little tearaway. It's like one of these things. It's like a VIP pass like this, and you could just tear away off the sides and the bottom, like you're redeeming your tickets. And that's a cool way because you're actually wearing it so you don't lose it. But I don't know. The taste testing, I guess I'm just a pig. I don't like tapas. I don't like sharing. I like to just commit and say, I'm eating a really big burrito, and that's what I'm doing for the next 15 minutes of my life. I'm not going to talk. I do that all the other time. I'll come back to you when I'm done with this burrito. That's the way I like to go. Okay, here's something that I'm excited about. Number 7 on our list. Number 7 on our list is Magic Happens. There's a new parade that'll be coming. This is February 28th. I will definitely be out for the rollout of that. Magic Happens is going to replace Mickey's Soundsational Parade. Now, I really thought when we did the 60th anniversary that the Paint the Night parade was just absolutely perfect. I love that parade so much. I'll be interested to see what Magic Happens. And with the actual name, Magic Happens, you would think there should be some magic in this, right? There should be some special effects. I don't know right now off the top of my head if Magic Happens is just a daytime parade. I tend to think that the parades are just a little bit more magical at night because of the lighting, and sort of it just makes it all feel more special, which was why I love Paint the Night so much. And there's a Carly Rae Jepsen song. You know her name. She had a song in there where she collaborated with Owl City. And then there was another Owl City song. And I believe these songs may be a part of Wreck-It Ralph. Don't hold me to it. But those are my Disneyland pump up songs. And I listen to those songs every time I'm getting ready to go to the park. I just tell, hey, Amazon device, play this song for me. And when I'm in the shower, listen to it, just get pumped up for another day of magic. So that'll be happening February 28th. Definitely something I'll be covering. I'd love to know in the chat, what's your favorite Disney parade? Mine right now is Paint the Night. Absolutely love it. Would love to know if you have a favorite one. Okay, moving on to our next topic. Number 8, Disneyland After Dark Pixar Night. It's a party at Disney California Adventure that requires special tickets that will include dancing, character encounters, photo ops, food, and of course, stuff to buy. $100, $109 like all the other ones. I would have to say out of all of the extra park events, Pixar Night would be the one that I would be the most willing to skip out on. I can see the idea of an 80s night. You get to dress fun. A Valentine's night makes sense to me, but a Pixar night, that one is going to be a hard pass for me. But also the Pixar Pier has been sort of a hard pass for me as well. It's just not my favorite. Oswaldo says he loves the Parade of Dreams. That's before my time. Done by Saturday says Main Street Electrical Parade. That is a great parade, but it is long and it's kind of wacky. I almost got a bulb from it. A light bulb fell off of one of the parade floats, and I was keeping my eye on it. I'm like, I'm not going to run out there during the parade because that's grubby. And if a cast member grabs it, then it's not mine. But after the parade passes, if that bulb is still there, I'm eyeing it. I'm going to gun up. I'm going to swipe up this little emerald green light bulb. I'll buy a little frame from it, and it'll be my own little piece of Main Street Electrical Parade. And do you know that the last float that came through, the back tires of that float crushed that light bulb? I was like, no, I was so close to having such a great souvenir. And then I just watched it get smashed. Oh, I was so bummed out when that happened. Tony Francis will be going to Disney January 20th. Can't wait. First hit of the magic. Tony, where you live at? I thought you were like an international guy. That's cool if you're coming over for the 20th. Tony Mendez says the parade of people leaving the park after the fireworks so he can shut it down. You're not wrong. Let's talk a little bit of Disneyland strategy. Let the fireworks pass, people. I know that at 9:00 it's crowded and you feel like you can't take any more. Make fireworks time the time that you stay away from Main Street. Make that the time that you go have a snack somewhere, because after the last nighttime show, every 10 minutes, there's a less 500 people in the park. I mean, it flows out. They just keep going and going and going. So the other night, going back to Designer Con, I had a bunch of artist friends that I was giving one of my Brickyland tours, and a local said, I really want a corn dog. Let's go get corn dogs. I said, hey, I said, hey, I don't want to be a Disneyland bully. If you guys want to go get corn dogs, go get corn dogs. By all means. I don't want to tell you what to do at Disneyland, but I just want to point out, we're in the Galaxy's Edge. Fireworks Christmas fireworks are in like 30, 45 minutes. The corn dog cart is on the other side of Main Street. To go from Galaxy's Edge to corn dog through parade traffic, wait in line for a corn dog, and then make it back, you are guaranteed to hit people gridlock. It is not an efficient use of your Disneyland time. Now, by all means, do what you want to do, but I'm here to tell you that might not be the smartest strategy. Okay, let's move on. Hot take from Mark Brickey. I'm actually a big fan of Pixar Pier. Oh, you love it. I'm interested. Tell me, let's mix it up because you're my co-host, Brooks. Tell me what you like about Pixar Pier, because I kind of liked it better before, because before it paid tribute to the past, and I thought that was good enough IP. I thought history was good enough IP, like Frontierland or how Adventureland sort of plays off the world as its IP. It was a little bit sad to see that go away, and then just to see like characters sort of like stickers placed on everything. All right. While I'm waiting for a response from Brooks, let's move up our list. March 7th, their number 9 thing to do is the 18th annual Mini Gay Day. Oh, this is the spring version of Gay Day. The larger one is in October. I would like to say this about the Gay Days at Disneyland. I'm so excited that that's something that happens. I'm so excited that we live in a time where not only do people say this is a day where we can celebrate our family at Disneyland and we can enjoy Disneyland and be proud of who we are, but Disney now makes rainbow merchandise. So we've gone so far, we've progressed so much as a society that not only is there a gay day or 2 different gay days, many in the spring and then the bigger one in the fall, where folks can go out and enjoy themselves and celebrate, family at a family based park. But there's rainbow merchandise, rainbow mini ears, rainbow t-shirts, rainbow Mickey hats, like you name it. It has been merchandise, enamel pens. That's just one of those little things where it's like, in my lifetime, I've seen that level of acceptance grow, which is just absolutely amazing. March 10th, or I'm sorry, number 10 on the list, March 7th. This is not a Disneyland resort, but you might want to know about it anyways, because there's an opening of Inside the Walt Disney Archives, 50 Years of Preserving the Magic exhibit at the Bowers Museum in Santa Ana. I will be there. That sounds like something I need to see. I'm largely anti-museum, but for Walt, I will make an exception. I will check that out. Definitely have to check that out. Tony Tran, you're coming all the way from Australia and you're going to Disneyland for the first time? Dude, hit me up with that date. This might be something I got to check out. I might have to give you a little bit of tour guide to the magic. Number 11 on the list, April 19th, Spring Dapper Day. If you don't know this, Dapper Day is when folks dress up and go to Disneyland and try to look like old-timey, the sort of how Disneyland was when it opened. Men wore hats, men wore slacks, ladies wore dresses. It's an annual thing that happens. Once again, Disney has leaned into the fan culture, leaning into the community that's actually, building their empire for them. When we see things like, hipster Mickey or dapper versions of Mickey and different things like that, you just see Disneyland. What I love about it is because it's in Southern California and it is such a locals park that there's such an amount of culture that the locals pour into the park, and then Disney sort of steps back, watches it all, and figures out how they can adopt it, mold it, and become a part of it. So it's kind of cool that it's just not this like, national attraction that if you're going to come to America once, try to see it, right, Tony? But that it's this thing that's living, breathing, and that, one learns from the other. All right, this is Brooks' counter offer on why Pixar Pier is better. I still think it gives the old school pier vibe, but adapting it to a younger crowd. I agree with you about that. It is definitely very important to make sure Disneyland evolves for future generations. I am not going to argue that with you at all, Brooke. Really enjoyed the ride update, but can understand why people like Paradise Pier better, but I'm easily pleased. All right, so this is not a crazy hot take, because I agree with you. It's important to get characters in there, and Disney I would just think that there's so much land at DCA to be resculpted. This is my counteroffer back to you. My hot take back is this: Hollywoodland should have been the Pixar area where they could have built dark rides so we could really go on adventures with these Pixar characters and they could get their full due. I want to think that if you're going to keep a classic pier vibe, it should be themed around classic characters. So old school pie-eyed Mickey, old school flat Donald Duck, sort of keep it old school in that way. And so then everything's aligned. And I think the Pixar world is so huge that it deserves more than to be crowbarred around existing things. Now, I understand that they already felt like they had 2 feet in that direction with having the Toy Story Midway Mania already embedded in that land. But I could have given that a pass if everything else was old school around it. So that's my hot take back. I have not done, Oswaldo, I have not done the Walt Disney Family Museum in San Francisco. I'm actually soon booking a week of interviews out in San Francisco so I can go interview some folks for Adventures in Design. And while I'm out there, for the YouTube channel and for my own obsession, I plan on visiting it for the first time and documenting it. I really, really want to see that model that they have of Disneyland. I'm a model enthusiast. I think part of why I love Disneyland so much is the reason why I love train villages and models. It's just so perfect. It's too bad the real world can't be like that all the time. Chris writes in, do you know how Rise of the Resistance opening day is going to be? Should I get there super early? Well, Chris, we talked about that earlier in the show, but I will tell you this: next week when we get together and do our weekly live, that's going to be what I'm going to talk about mainly, is my strategy on how to get there, what time I'm getting there, how to get there. I've looked at what happened at Walt Disney World. I've thought about how our park here is differently. So Chris, next week, let's show up and let's talk strategy, all about getting to Rise of the Resistance. And hey, maybe we can hang. Okay, so let's do this. We move back over to our list that we're reviewing. They have April 30th. This is number 12 on the OC Registers list on 20 things that fans should do in 2020 at Disneyland. You should be excited about. I believe this is the last special ticketed event. It's called Disneyland After Dark Villains Night. If you're a Disney fan, you will likely know that the villains have a special place in the hearts of many. The special ticket event includes food, merch, photo ops, entertainment. It's slated to include singing and dancing villains cabaret, dancing character meet and greets, photo ops, and food. The Disneyland villains, Dillons for short. This one sounds like something that I would be maybe interested in spend money in. I like seeing the villains, but I'm also, the character meet and greets are cool. But when people are like, they didn't have enough character meet and greets, I'm like, I don't know. It's a nice spice to the soup, but I don't eat the soup just to get the spice, if you know what I'm saying. Okay. So moving up the list here, we have number 13 on their list, because this is done in calendar order. There is no date, but this summer will be obviously the new Marvel land called Adventures Campus, which I predicted that was going to be the name before it actually happened, which will take over the space that is Bugs Land. Now, Brooks and I were having a debate about what the fate of Pixar Pier should have been. Well, it's committed now that that's where Pixar goes. So now that Pixar lives over there, I say and I pray that this Avengers Campus grows in 2 ways. I hope that it grows to the west and takes over, or is that the north? That would be the north. I hope that it grows north and goes into Hollywood land, and that we see the Avengers and the Marvel franchise go in that direction. And I would hope that it grows to the south, and then it takes over that back lot space. Because if you remember, Bugs Land, that's a small parcel of land. Avengers Marvel, that is a big IP. That's a lot of excitement. So I hope that it grows in 2 ways. I am so excited for this. I'm a little skeptical on the Spider-Man attraction, and I really wish that we were getting more than just one family style attraction, one restaurant, one show, and then a facade that nobody really knows what it does. But the promise of sort of, it looks like a very involved Star Tours, for lack of a better word, or maybe Star Tours meets Smuggler's Run for the Marvel franchise. I think that will be very fascinating to see what the dark ride looks like. I won't get too much into that now because this will be things we'll be talking about in the future. But I mean, that, I think for every fan, that's the big thing, right? Or, man, I'd love to know, think in your heart of hearts, are you more excited to ride Rise of the Resistance for the first time and finish your Star Wars journey? Or are you more excited to walk into Avengers Campus for the first time? That is a very, very hard debate that's going on in my heart right now. Number 14 on their list, August is the 30th anniversary of the Chalk Walk, Children's Hospital of Orange County. This is a big community fundraiser thing they do. It gives you access to get into Disneyland incredibly early. And in case you didn't know this, fun fact, whenever you see the change that people throw into the fountain, or all the change that people throw into that little cubby in Snow White's, all of the wishing change at Disneyland gets gathered and gets taken to Children's Hospital. So actually, for every penny that you throw in the fountain, 2 dreams come true. The one you wish for, and the dream that happens when the money goes to a sick child that's trying to get healthy. Wow. I got choked up just saying that. Number 15, September to November 2nd, it's Halloween. Oh, it's only 9, a little bit over 8 months to Halloween. Get me there, Daddy. Get me there. Let's do this. Let's do this, man. I cannot wait. Let's wait. I cannot wait to get there and do it, man. I am going to be pumped up on that. I cannot wait for more Halloween. Backtracking a little bit, Tony Mendez says, I was bummed when he learned that Doctor Strange Sanctorium is a meet and greet and not an awesome dark ride walkthrough. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a little bit more than a meet and greet. I think it's going to be kind of like, remember the old Jedi Academy they had in Tomorrowland, where kids could come up and they could practice to be a Jedi? I'm looking at the rendering and I'm thinking they already have so many meet and greets occupying dead space in Hollywoodland that I believe that it's going to be more of like, this is how you become a sorcerer. It's going to be like a magic show. So I think it's going to be a step between. It's not going to be what you wanted, but it's not as bad as you think. So I think it's kind of a half step in the middle there. Done by Saturday says Rise for sure to him is more important than the Avengers Campus. And Brooke says, kind of crazy how much new stuff Disneyland has released in the last couple of years. Yes, we are going through a renaissance right now. The amusement parks are seeing a renaissance. And I want to give you this big concept because I want our weekly talk show that we do together to be sort of a place for intelligent Disney discussions, not just, do you think Stitch could beat up Mulan's dad? I don't know who Mulan's dad is, but the point here is this. Everything's going through a renaissance, and that renaissance has started by 2 factors in our world: social media and the death of retail. Retail used to be a big pastime for people. People used to go to the mall. People used to shop. Now that retail's gone, experience is what people do with their free time. And why do they do experience? Because for the first time in your life, you have a way to share it with everybody who's not there. So FOMO, fear of missing out, is leading our society, and Disneyland creates more FOMO than anything else. I go to the park all the time. And if you wrote me right now and said, I'm at the park today, Bricky, I'm like, I'm jealous of you. I mean, I was there late. Won't tell you how late because I want you to watch the video. But I was there late for the end of Christmas, and I already want to go back. And I'm sitting here talking about it with you, and I'm going to edit a video that'll go out tomorrow. So there's definitely a renaissance right now. And as fans, we are making out like bandits just on how much new stuff we're getting. It'll be depressing when the drip stops, but hopefully people keep going. They keep making more money, and they just keep building and building because it's so exciting to get all this new stuff and to just have, decades of legacy throughout the park. See, my boy Oswaldo already looking forward to the weekend, and he was just there late with me too. He's one of my cameo buds in the Christmas video that I got to get you to go check out. Okay, it looks like number 16 on their list, mid-September to Halloween. Disney California Adventure will once again be hosting the specially ticketed Halloween party, Oogie Boogie's Bash. I went this past year. I did a whole video about it. You can see I was there on opening night. I highly recommend going to this ticketed event. If for any other reason that you get an emptier park, everybody is all pumped up and dressed up. They roll out different engagements that you can do, like Villains Grove. If you go watch the video, like I had an emotional breakdown. It was like there was a scene in there where I felt like I had died and gone to Disney heaven. And I don't know that I believe in heaven, but I want to believe in a Disney heaven. And it was fantastic. So if you're coming in from out of town and you can only go like to DCA one time, I would say make it one of these because you can crush the park with less people in it and get a lot of vibes. And it's one of the few times. I love DCA. I'm not a hater. I love it. I refer to it as the locals park. It's one of the few times where DCA comes close to clipping the amount of magic that Disneyland proper has. And that's the ultimate compliment I can give it. Okay, David Gallo goes back on our debate. It's tough. Avengers Campus is going to be fun, but with both of the franchise ending their current storylines, it will be interesting to see how they evolve. Oh, don't you worry. I know the current storylines are dying, but there's going to be so much room for more. And I think that there's a lot that we're not seeing at Galaxy's Edge, like with all the stages that were built into it, the fact that they didn't cram in a third attraction, the fact that there's a parcel of land that's being held for expansion. There's more to come. There's so much more to come. Jordan writes, in the last couple of episodes of the Imagineering story were so impressive to see all the new things in the works. Very stoked to see that Disney is on the up and up. Yeah, Jordan, I mean, this is like the most popular all of this stuff has ever been. And they're being smart and they're riding this wave. And it really feels like they've got the proper people working on it. I'm fortunate enough to know some people that work for the park at high levels. And, you know, the stuff that I hear that I couldn't talk about is just, it's fascinating. I mean, they've really got people that love it. And if you think about it, in the beginning, they were making it up as they were going along. But now Pinocchio's a real boy. These people that are making the decisions grew up with Disneyland. So they have their expectations, their parents, their kids, they're also fans. So it's a really interesting thing where now the park is actually building itself. And that stumbling blind through the dark, those years are kind of gone, which a lot of great magic came out of that. I don't think anybody would argue with that. But now we're seeing people that have a beat on what Disneyland has been and what it's going to be, building and planning out the future. And it makes me really excited for that future. Number 17 on OC's list, OC Register's list, October 2nd to 4th, Gay Days, the official Gay Days. Talked about that earlier. I think that's so cool that happens. Number 18 on their list, Christmas time at Disneyland. Oh, bring it back. Can we start it at Christmas in July and go to real Christmas? Or can somebody open me up at Disneyland that's just Christmas all year long? Christmas time will launch. They are guessing that it will launch on Friday, November 6th, which is the first Friday after Halloween has gone away. And then they predict it will also go to January 6th again, which happens to be Three Kings Day and Christian Epiphany Day. And if you don't know this, the Epiphany Day is the last day of Christmas. So I guess it's the 12th day of Christmas. And that's the day where you're supposed to reflect back on the holiday season, pack up all your stuff, and be joyful for what you went through. I just learned that the other day. So it looks like that will be our Christmas season. Number 19 on their list, it will be Mickey Mouse's birthday. He seems to get older like all of us do each and every year. The Mickey Mouse birthday is always celebrated in the parks, usually with a special event like a cavalcade, which is sort of like a parade, but no floats. Excuse me, a lot of talking. So I got to figure out a way to get some of you guys on here so I can stop talking. which is cavalcade. I have a video over on the channel where you can watch the cavalcade they did when they were sort of paradeless. It's a really fun, cool way to check it out. I actually planned it and walked behind it on the entire route. So if you want to see a POV perspective of a Disney parade, follow behind me in that clip. I was really excited to get into the video. So this year though, the date commemorates the day in 1928 that Steamboat Willie premiered. Friends of mine are having a baby, and I gave them the black and white quilted Mickey and Minnie as a, hey, this is for your kids' room. Sorry, this is for your kids' room, because black and white characters match any paint that you're going to come up with, and I love Steamboat Willie so much. And I love, if you look at the Phantasmic, if you look up at the Mark Twain when it comes by at the very end, they have a black and white Steamboat Willie that's driving the ship. And I wish they would do a meet and greet with him, because that is somebody I would like to get my photo taken with. And then number 20 on their list, this is an invite only thing. It's called the Disneyland Candlelight Ceremony. I have been fortunate enough to go to the candlelight ceremony. I had an invitation this year that I had to decline because it overlapped with my birthday. I can't even express to you what a tremendous event this is, because it's the best of Disneyland and the best of Christmas coming together. And it is hard to watch it without feeling the magic run down your cheeks. It is a really, really great show. And it's awesome that things like this, Walt came up with an idea. We should do a Christmas celebration for our sponsors, for people that help out the park. And for that to just continue to go throughout time, that's just tremendous. And to have been one of the people that worked with the park when I was an illustrator for Wonderground Gallery, and to be on that list of somebody who worked with the park, and to make it in there as a collaborator with Disneyland, just absolutely one of the most special moments in my Disneyland fandom. All right, we are wrapping up our hour. So the pitch is this: we get together once a week. We do this. I don't know if I can pick a set time. So on the comments below on this video, let me know. Do you want this converted over into a podcast? Should we make this a podcast? Do you like the idea of doing this and being the co-host? Do you like the idea of using Super Chat to sort of moderate like questions asked and how people get in and to raise funds for it? Do you like the idea of, once we get going and we sort of build a community, or maybe we do ways where people can become a co-host for an episode, and we can record it in a platform where multiple people can have their cams on? Like, I would love to know below, and I'm going to read it, and what we all agree upon. Like, every idea I've given, I approve. So if you approve, then we can do this together. And any new idea you have, I will bring it back to the group and talk about it next week. So we get together next week. We're going to talk about strategies for Rise of the Resistance. If you want to go out there on opening day, how I think to make it possible, and what I'm going to be doing for my filming for the YouTube channel. We'll also talk about what feedback we got from our first episode. I'm going to consider this first month all pilot episodes. I would like to maybe invest some into it, so there could be a backdrop behind me and news articles could pop up, but it takes time and it takes money. We can get there. We can do it together. But my last pitch to you with the remaining minute that I have is, I want to create a place where we can not break news, but talk about news, and talk about Disneyland from the extreme fan, the hardcore perspective, but the intelligent perspective, sort of the business behind it, the ideas behind it, how it works, how it comes together. Like, I love people that are just pure and just want to love it and think that Mickey Mouse is real. Bless them. I bless them. But I like it at a whole other intellectual level. And I think when we look at Walt Disney Imagineering story, they understand there's a lot of us out there. And I would like to create a place where all of us folks a projector screen, so it's just blasting all over my face. So anyways, as you can see, I'm green right now because there's going to be this new Hulk donut dropping in the park, That would be amazing. But I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I want to thank everybody for hanging out and watching this. I'll be looking at the comments below, and whatever you can do to help spread the word of my YouTube channel. I'm committed to going back and covering the parks, but I really need your help to keep doing it, to make it happen, and to make it worthwhile. Until the next time I see you, which hopefully will be very soon, enjoy the magic every single day. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I'll see you again real soon.